resumed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I call to order the virtual special board meeting of the Oak Park River Forest High School at 4:38 p.m. on Wednesday, May 13, 2020. Gail, please call the roll.
Mr. Kofsky?
Here.
Ms. Spivey?
Here.
Yes. Mr. Barron?
I'm here, thank you.
Mr. Isley?
I'm here.
Mr. Martiri?
Present.
Ms. Harris?
Here.
And Dr. Moore?
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Gail, I believe we do have public comment, don't we?
We do. The first one is from John Duffy. And he says, I am presenting a statement on behalf of the Committee for Equity and Excellence in Education, Oak Park Call to Action, Suburban Unity Alliance, and community members Bercy Wines and Winetta Johnson. As a racial equity advocates, we are deeply disappointed by your April 23rd vote to proceed immediately with the $32.6 million Phase 1 construction, a decision made unanimously and against the recommendation of district administration. We ask that the board halt construction plans and consider the impact of the pandemic on our students, their families, our school, and this community. The district's financial consultant presented serious projected fiscal shortfalls that could cost the district up to $45 million in lost revenue by year 2025. This projection, combined with other factors, including Illinois having the worst fiscal condition and lowest school funding in the nation, make future school revenues from property taxes and state aid most problematic and uncertain. Surely even the most privileged in our community must recognize that the pandemic has intensified local and national inequities in jobs, housing, food, and education, all of which impact our most vulnerable students and families and our community. Board members commented that new construction supported the district's equity vision. You asserted that the project will rebuild and modernize the Student Learning Center and cafeteria, add new science classrooms, improve some special education classrooms, and provide additional physical accommodations for students with disabilities. Some of those changes in the right climate might be deserving priorities, and notably this board has previously acted on behalf of our most marginalized students, enhancing restorative practices, hiring more teachers of color, and supporting curriculum equity. Nevertheless, student needs impacted by long-standing race and class inequities and magnified by the pandemic went unmentioned in the recent decision to push on with construction spending. Current articles by educators are replete with analysis of new and aggravated challenges related to the pandemic for students and schools. We strongly believe District 200's dwindling resources must be directed to student needs aggravated by the COVID-19 pandemic. These needs include remediation to address lost learning for all and the widening equity gaps, extended school days and years, expanded summer school options, tutoring, and compensatory services for students with special needs. Support for teachers adjusting curricula, developing new strategies, amending materials, applying new technology, and implementing authentic, individualized student assessments to guide learning across settings. Services to address health and safety for reopening, expanded nursing, social work, counseling, and psychological services. Updated janitorial procedures and products and health and public safety strategies. Technology expansion and support for students and families, faculty, and staff during e-learning, reintegration into classrooms and remediation, facility and classroom changes for reopening, health stations, smaller class sizes, split attendance hours, and reconfigure large meetings. Mary Bird then provided the following public comment. She's also a member of CEE, and she continues with John Duffy's statement. While raising deep concerns regarding board priorities, we recognize and praise the efforts of faculty, staff, administration, and families for their support of students during this crisis. They and our children, however, need more targeted resources and support. The $32 million construction project must be halted. We call on the district board and administration to make decisions with careful attention to the complete context schools, students, and families face. Responsible decision-making is paramount for realizing the educational mission of OPRFHS. Advancing a massive construction project ignores the unprecedented social, emotional, academic, and economic situations students and families face. Importantly, decisions on funding, programs, hiring, curriculum, and new construction must be made with the faithful use of an equity impact evaluation. The District 200 racial equity policy mandates the use of that protocol. A racial equity impact assessment lens is a central feature of implementation and accountability procedures Superintendent Pruitt-Adams will soon bring to the board for approval. We truly hope all dire predictions are inaccurate and concerns unwarranted. Our community, however, is responsible for this generation's education. Now, during a pandemic, is not the time to gamble on behalf of our children. Finally, CEE, SUA, OPCTA, and Ms. Hines and Ms. Johnson ask you to provide a response to these questions. First, to the board. 1, why in deciding to move forward with construction did you not consider students and families' educational and economic needs, especially in light of the pandemic? Why did the board elevate its own analysis of the district financial situation above the administration's and that of the administration's consultant, particularly in light of the pandemic, while families are suffering, including our community? What were the reasons for ignoring the administration's and their consultants' recommendation to hold off on construction? 3, does the board consider the financial state of Illinois relevant to schools in Oak Park? If so, how is that reflected in the construction decision? If not, why are Illinois finances not relevant to Oak Park School? 4, why was an authentic racial equity impact analysis not applied to the decision to move forward with the $32.6 million in construction? Will the board seek information from District 200 regarding the COVID-19 educational and psychosocial needs and costs for its students, faculty, staff, and community? If so, when? If not, why not? For the administration, 1, what steps is the administration taking to assess the needs of families and students who are considered the school's most vulnerable, including students with special needs, students with lower socioeconomic status, and/or students of color, and/or those families and students who have not responded to past surveys or outreach? Will the administration present a report to the board this summer setting forth projected and potential needs and challenges for students, families, faculty, and staff relating to COVID-19? If so, when? If not, why not? And that's all I have.
Is that the end of the public comment, Gail?
It is.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that. All right. So our first agenda item is approval of the graduation requirement waiver. So I move to waive the graduation requirements as detailed in the summary for the class of 2020 because of the current extraordinary circumstances. May I have a second?
Second.
Could you do a roll call, please, Gail?
Yes. Mr. Barron,
Yes.
Mr. Isley,
Yes.
Mr. Martiri,
Yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Kofsky.
Yes, I mean, I just have a question. Are we voting on this, or are we discussing it, or are we already voting?
I thought you were going to discuss first and then
Yeah.
vote.
I'm confused that we're jumping right into a vote.
All right, so let's.
Well, I'm sorry, did I ask for a roll call? I'm sorry, I'm dealing with a small.
Okay.
No roll call, discussion. I'm sorry, Tom.
All right, thank you.
Chris, could you click on the item and open it, please? So while he's opening it, before I turn it over to Greg, I just wanted to remind the board that the state of Illinois, when the governor did his executive order to waive graduation, ISB, the Illinois State Board of Education, was charged with putting recommendations into a rule. And so and then they also gave districts the flexibility that if the district had any courses that were state required courses, but that the district had decided through board governance to make required courses for graduation, that they should present to the board the ability to waive those courses for seniors in the class of 2020 only. And so we're bringing forward today a review showing you the courses that were waived by ISB and the number of courses that we as a district need to waive because they currently impact our current seniors. Greg?
I don't have much to add by way of introduction than what you just said, Dr. Pruitt-Adams. Just like you said, there's two things, those that were named by the state in their executive order, and also as a result of the guidance that we have those courses that we need to waive because they are graduation requirements and our seniors are currently taking them right now. And so that's the process that we used to determine the list of the 6 courses that you see in the second bullet on the cover letter. Computer proficiency, excuse me, all the way down through civics. The only other thing that I will add, Dr. Pruitt-Adams, is that the final 4 bullets in the first part of summary findings kind of detail the effect that this will have on our student population. Mm-hmm. And the headline to this, the overall banner to the effect that this will have on our student population is that no student who began this semester as being on track to graduate will be in a situation to not graduate as a result of the pandemic. And so you can see how that plays out numerically. I also want to underscore that this does not mean that the 27 active and the 20 off-campus students who are currently not on track to graduate and may not graduate at the end of this semester, this is not by no means to say that they won't graduate. It just means to say that they weren't on track at the start of the semester. And so they may or may not have been enrolled in everything that they've needed. And we aren't waiving necessarily all of those classes that were kind of backlogged needs for those students. The last thing I'll say is, and this is just important for the public, and I think anybody listening or reading this later on to be aware of, and by no means are we saying in any way that this is something that we are interested in waiving for any future courses. This is not a commentary in any way, shape, or form on our historic graduation requirements, on our intent to have reduced graduation requirements down the road. This is specific to the situation that we find ourselves in right now. So,
Does anybody have any questions?
I had one question, just Greg, if you wouldn't mind. You know, in looking at the 6 courses that we as a district are waiving, the one that kind of stood out to me was civics. And I mean, so as I look at some of the other ones, those are courses that it's like you need to be on campus for many of them, but can you provide any further explanation of how civics got on that list?
you know, actually the criteria of needing to be on campus for them actually was not something that was considered with these. And so the answer that I'm gonna give you to civics should be equally applied to the others as well. And that is simply this. We have a large number of seniors who are enrolled in civics right now. Linda Parker is here and she might be able to speak the exact number, but I think as she and I were going over this in some detail, it was like 140 or something like that seniors enrolled in it. They need that course to graduate. It's a requirement. And to ensure that there's no way that that requirement can impede kids from graduating, we will.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Greg, I have a question related to that. So waiving the requirements does not mean necessarily that the courses are not still being offered to our students who want to still engage with the rest of the content. Is that correct?
Oh,
They are still engaging in the content now. I'll jump in on that one. What ISB said is we don't know how this pandemic has impacted students at various levels of anxiety, engagement, need for one-on-one teacher support. And they did not want any courses that would be impact students as a basis for this pandemic to be have cause harm for them.
May I also add just about the grades that they will still receive grades in their classes. This just won't impede graduation.
Graduation.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. They're enrolled. Grades are going to be there just like any other thing for any other class that kids are taking right now.
So if they were to get an incomplete in one of these classes, how is that handled?
Yes. So if a kid has an incomplete at the end of this, and that is only possible for kids who were not passing the class at the beginning of third quarter. If a
And
kid
who
has
didn't
an
engage, right? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's possible that if they had that F, they weren't passing the beginning of third quarter, they could have brought that grade up, absolutely. But if they were, if they had maintained that F, throughout fourth quarter, throughout remote learning, it's waived. It's not necessary for them to graduate. It would show up as an incomplete. And initially, when we run our reports, we are going to change all of those to NC grades, which means that it's a no credit grade, which is consistent with the state guidelines that we received back in mid-March, that no F could be given to students as a result of remote learning. And so an NC basically has the effect of saying, it's here, you were enrolled in this thing, but it has no effect on your GPA calculations. It's not a credit bearing. It's just something that's listed that you were enrolled in this thing. That's all it says.
But they get a pass, right? They essentially it's
They
a
passed the
passing.
class, yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I need to clarify that. Actually, it's not a pass. NC means that it's no credit. There is no letter grade. It's basically just noted on their transcript that they were enrolled in this thing, but it's not a pass. That's an important thing to do to clarify.
But they still graduate?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I do think it's important to note, and it may have been said and I missed it, that if a student was continuously engaged in turning in his or her assignments, their final grade would not be lower than their third quarter grade in that course.
That's right.
I have a question about, so basically we're talking about 47 students here. Is that correct? That after doing the waivers are still in jeopardy of not passing?
That's
Some
correct.
of them are by virtue of, and correct me if I'm wrong, Linda, some of them are off campus and we were still waiting on grades to come in for them. And then giving them also the opportunity to bring their grades up between now and the end of school.
Correct.
Mhm.
And then the 27 that are on campus that it says who are not on track to graduate prior to the pandemic, does that, how were they aware prior to this semester that they weren't likely to graduate, or is it still based on one semester that they would have been able to make corrections, or were they farther behind than that?
These were students who were making up credits outside of what would have been senior courses. So they were aware of that and they have been working with their counselor around that, and families and parents are aware of that too. If they do successfully complete those recovery courses, they could still graduate. So they are still actively working.
And then just the last question has to do with those same students and, desiring, without violating anyone's privacy, what the demographics for those 47 students are. And just as a general rule, but also for all of, this kind of data, but also, and it lines up with Craig's question, those students, will they get incompletes and then have the opportunity for summer school? An opportunity, I have in quotes.
Most of
Go ahead, Linda.
Most of these students were already on a plan for how they were going to recover the classes that they still needed in order to graduate. Some of which had been parents who asked for that. They wanted to have a extended summer time to finish courses. That was their choice to do so. But they do have plans. I don't have it broken down by demographics, but I can tell you I looked at the SPED versus the general education count as I was doing that. But I did not break down by demographics of race.
Okay, it would be, I think, helpful to just understand how we're characterizing those 47 students.
Yeah, we have all those students run and we're monitoring, supporting them. I just want to make that clear.
We
Just for the
can get
purpose
you-
of this
we can-
report, we have not run.
Right. We can get you that information. However, the reason we asked for the special board meeting was so that, because the seniors' last day is next Friday. And so we need to communicate so that parents know and students know where we are with graduation requirements and waiving them.
Yes.
So this is Martiri. So it just strikes me as this helps those 47 students
It
focus on
does.
other areas,
Yes,
so
it
they
does.
don't have to complete their coursework in any of these courses if they are enrolled in them for a graduation requirement. So this is a way of trying to make it somewhat easier during difficult times for 47 students at risk of not graduating to have a chance to graduate. Am I correct?
That is correct.
And you actually see that reflected a little bit for anybody who's not in this meeting and hearing that point discussed. The fourth bullet at the bottom of that first page of the memo is attempting to capture what you just explained.
Right. Because it says waiving the requirements above would allow these 47 students to better target their efforts for the next 3 weeks, increasing their chance of graduating this spring.
I have one clarifying question because I understand all of that. And I guess I'm trying to understand with the credit aspect of this because, the students that were in jeopardy of not graduating, all the things we talked about in terms of stressors and what it is like to try to work under these current circumstances. If they graduate and don't get credit for courses, how are they still positioned to be able for their next steps in their post-high school careers?
We
Very
believe
good.
there will be. I'll let Linda answer that, but we also dropped the credit requirement. It would drop from 43 down to 38.
Okay,
And
so
I'm sorry. We felt it very important to make sure we emphasize to the students not to just stop working, because whatever they can earn for their grade, it's going to be necessary for that final transcript that does get sent to their colleges at the end of this school year for those who are going to college. So it is very much in our communication that they should not just stop working. They should continue, and do know that we already made modifications to our grading so that there's no harm being done right now. And third quarter is the mark that we used as the benchmark.
okay, thank you. I just know that there's been every year there are students literally the week before graduation that thought they were graduating and weren't, so given the extra circumstances, I'm just trying to make sure I understand how it's being communicated. So I appreciate
Absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions by anybody else?
I guess just one comment. I'm a little worried about, if we don't have classes in the fall, how we're going to deal with the same set of issues. I assume you guys are focused on thinking
Yeah.
about that.
We're going to develop a 3-prong approach. But what we're going to do is we have more time now to plan. We were thrust into this, as you know, at the last minute. So the mistakes, the missteps, the things we missed during this process, we're keeping note of, and we've learned from those so that we can get ahead of everything and it's be clearly communicated prior to the start of school, whenever that is and however that is.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you, Greg and Dr. Pruitt-Adams, for that report, and Ms. Parker. Gail, could you do a roll call, please?
Absolutely. Yes. Mr. Barron,
Yes.
Mr. Isley,
Yes.
Mr. Martiri,
Still yes.
Ms. Harris,
Yes.
Ms. Yurkovsky,
Yes.
Dr. Moore,
Yes.
and Ms. Spivey.
Yes, thank you. Our next
Thank you,
item.
everyone. Chris,
Anna,
could you
thank
click
you.
to the next item?
So our next item is a discussion of graduation ceremony date and procedures.
Yes. Chris,
Yeah.
could you click open on that item? This is just an item for discussion. It does not require a board vote. But several weeks ago, as you know, we sent out a survey to our seniors and our seniors' families. And we gave them 3 options for graduation. Their regular graduation date of May 31st as a virtual graduation, August 2nd as an in-person graduation, and then December the 20th as another option. As we shared with the board, the results showed that at that point in time, the students voted for an in-person graduation August 2nd and follow-up in-person graduation December 20th in lieu of a virtual graduation. We started moving in that direction, and as I will say, my colleagues across the state got the same results from their students. However, with the release of the governor's reopening of Illinois' phase-in program in August, it is predicted that we will be at a phase 4, which is up to 50 people. We're not sure if we will even be at phase 4 now in August. In yesterday's update, the governor indicated that we will probably not reach our peak in Illinois until sometime mid-June. And as you know, today Illinois had the highest death total in one day than we've had. In talking with Mike Charlie from the Public Health Department from Oak Park and with my colleagues at the Illinois Public Department of Health, the likelihood of an on-site in-person graduation happening in August is almost 0. And the same could be possibly for December because they're predicting a resurge of COVID. And so rather than in August having to tell our seniors, oh, we're not going to do anything now, which is what some school districts are doing, or in December, we would like to move forward with doing a virtual graduation as close to our graduation as possible. The senior caps and gowns and materials and diplomas are all in. They would be distributed based upon a schedule. May the 29th and May 30th, we would ask our seniors to take photos of themselves in their caps and gowns. We have teachers from the music department who will work with our students to do the national anthem, would work with our student council president for their comments. Greg and his team are reviewing the speeches from the Scholarship Cup recipients to make a choice. I would record my speech. We asked Board President Spivey to record her speech. We even have a passing of the acts that could happen virtually. And so our goal is to have a virtual graduation as close to possible as our kids could have, featured on YouTube. We've reached out to the gentleman who normally records our graduations. The village has even said they will stream it on the village network. And we just think that will give our students some relief. They can put it behind them. The other drawback is to have it in August. Those students who have joined the military will be gone. And some students who are in athletics, if that is to happen on the college campus, would be gone. And so we wanted to impact them now in the most positive way that we possibly can. So we wanted to share that with the board. If you have any questions, as I said, this is a discussion item that does not require board approval. We are prepared to answer those questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
So I have 2 questions. One is, why not December? Because that was clearly the second vote of everyone. And the second is, why is a decision necessary now?
Well, we're being asked, kids, actually our students want to know what's going to happen. We've had multiple parents reach out to say There's no guarantee. We've had public health officials even reach out to say there's no guarantee where this country, this state will be in August or December. We picked December because it would be the best time we could bring everybody together if the restrictions are lifted. However, that would have to be in the field house because the auditorium could not hold all of our students. And we weren't sure how many students would come because they would have graduated, they'll be gone. And for some of them coming back, they would have moved on to the next thing. So that was one of the reasons for the recommendation to do it now versus later.
Craig, did you have any other questions, Craig?
No. I guess this is a question what I get from the answer is there's uncertainty in December, and kind of regardless of what the general vote was, there are students who would have moved on by December, so you would prefer to do it sooner.
I would prefer to have the greater impact on the greater number of students in a more positive way. I would hate to be put in a situation in August to say we can't do it. Let's hold off until December. And then in December, say to students once again, we can't do it.
Okay.
We are talking about, however, whenever we can bring our students together, we do want to have some type of celebratory celebration for them, whether that's August or in December, because they've also missed prom. But bringing them together for some type of reception, some way to come together as a group and celebrate each other.
May I make a comment, Sarah?
Yeah, of course.
First, before I forget, one question I would have is if we could hold out perhaps the possibility for, in addition to a virtual event that you're indicating would be June 14th, I believe,
Yes.
to maybe hold out the possibility for something in December as well. And that I think echoes what you're saying about having some kind of a gathering whenever
Yes.
it's safe to do so. So
yes, but they actually pick up their diplomas when they pick up their caps and gowns.
Yeah. So, I mean, my just overall remark would be that my first reaction when I saw you indicate that based on the governor's 5-phase plan that the August 2nd date would not happen, I was thoroughly disappointed. And, but also I understand entirely. And so I think it's really unfortunate. Obviously, no one wants this to be what we're dealing with. That being said, I appreciate that the honors convocation that happened a few weeks ago, virtually online, and then the distribution of the yard signs for graduating seniors just this past weekend was done so well and is, I think, so encouraging and morale boosting, and it's excellent that at the risk of incurring the wrath of volunteers and staff next year and beyond, I would love to see those things continue, regardless of whether we continue to have to deal with all this sheltering in place. And so I'm confident that whatever comes out of the virtual event will exceed even the rising expectations that I had. So I just want to compliment you and your staff for doing such a tremendous job. It's really so outstanding.
I will just tell you the staff has risen to the occasion every time we've reached out. In fact, you would be surprised how many teachers said they want to make this a tradition, putting the signs out. From remote learning to planning activities, everyone has chipped in and just done an amazing job. So
Yeah.
it's not me, it's the team.
Yeah, well, the team is doing a great job, and I just want to volunteer. A year from now, I won't be on this board, and I would be willing to be among those distributing some. So I'll just add my 2 cents to the effort. So anyhow, hopefully it'll be in addition to an actual in-person event. So that's all I have.
Hey, Sarah, can I?
Yeah, go for it, Gina.
Thank you. I want to say also thank you all for, I know the challenge of, I have a graduating senior this year, but not at our high school. And I know the challenge in making that determination to do something now and to have the most students attend. And so that could be possible, because I do agree completely that December, with students going to college and all the things and family situations changing because of everything that we're experiencing, I think that would have been really tough, a tough challenge. I wanted to just ask you all about students that may not have been as plugged in and connected, and what were the efforts to ensure that they got signs? Like, I just know that.
Every single senior got assigned, even those students who we weren't sure if they were gonna make it at the end of the year, they got assigned. Because we didn't want to keep them out, saying, well, they may make it, they may not make it. And even the students who were missed, Greg Johnson and Gwen Walker Quarles went out Sunday and Monday to make sure that they got their signs.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Any other comments from any other board members? It's hard when I can't see faces. So thank you, Dr. Pruitt-Adams. This is really thoughtful, thoughtfully laid out, and super disappointing, but sort of where we're at this point. But I would echo the yard signs are fantastic. I saw teachers picking them up. They were super excited because I was, on a walk with a family, and then I saw them all out. And every time I go somewhere, I see more of them. So I think that that's a tradition that if we can, we should keep going with. I too volunteer to put out signs next year. So thank you so much for those efforts.
Okay, thank you so much. That's all we have.
Okay, we do have closed session. So I move to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district, a legal counsel for the district, and independent contractors and specific volunteers, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. Can I have a second? Can I have a roll call, Gail, please?
Who seconded it, please?
Excuse me, I just want to indicate to the team and everyone else that we will be leaving this meeting. This is not for us. And that Gail will notify Chris when it's time to bring the board back into open session. So my team and the public, we can log out now. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks so much.
Take care.
May I ask who seconded it, please?
I'll second it, Gina.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Martiri?
Yes.
Mr. Barron?
Yes.
Mr. Isley?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Kofsky?
Yes.
Dr. Moore?
Yes.
And Ms. Spivey?
Yes.
Thank
So we will leave this Zoom room and head to the next.
Correct.
Or a motion to adjourn open session.
So moved, Martiri.
Second?
I'll
Harris.
second it.
Second?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you guys. Have a great night. Have a great weekend.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
See you all. Take care.
Bye. I love these.